The one thing we all can't wait to find out is what the numbers look like for next week. Well, wait no longer, because we have them for you. Time to close the door on this week, and let's take a look ahead to next on the Opening Line Show.
Week 15 almost over. Vegas Stats and Information Network. Matt Youmans, Sam Panayotovich here on the Opening Line Show on VSiN. We'll go down to the Westgate in just a moment. John Murray, Dave Tuley are standing by. I think we should start with the marquee game in the afternoon. Pittsburgh 17, New England 10. Pittsburgh had multiple chances to pull away. Another missed field goal for the Boz. Brady, a bad pick deep in Steeler territory. This was an ugly game. The total was 55. 17-10, the Steelers win. Steelers cover as a dog.
Yeah, Brady's getting careless with the football. He threw one up for grabs. His interception number is up. It's curious play calling today by the Patriots, too. I know they wanted to rest their defense. They were running the ball and putting their offense on third and long in a lot of situations. With the combination of that play calling aspect and the penalties, the pre-snap penalties, 14 total penalties on New England today. A very sloppy game. That was one where I think, the public really jumped on the Pats. And if you bet that like I did, you bet the Patriots, you were a little bit gun-shy knowing that was a popular public side, and got burned. Should have known better. I did put the Steelers on a teaser, though, like I said before the game, as a little bit of insurance. It was a strong two-way action game, and I think the books needed the Steelers and actually came out okay with that one.
I was on the Colts. You were on the Colts. John Murray was on the Colts. He gave it to Uncle Brent. I didn't see them winning 23-0 though against the Cowboys. And here's a trend for you: first half unders with the Cowboys this year, 11 unders and 3 overs. So the defense is carrying the mail early.
No surprise here. I said on VSiN early in the week, this is my best bet of the week. I thought the Colts were in a great spot. They're going to play with a lot more urgency. They are now 7-1 in their past 8 games. If you haven't been paying attention, Frank Reich's done a phenomenal job with this offense and Andrew Luck. And look at the Colts defense as well. Not just today's shutout, but the Indianapolis defense was a punchline last year, and even early in this season. That's not the case anymore. This team is in the playoff. This is a dangerous team. In the AFC, nobody wants to face Andrew Luck and the Colts right now. The only thing that surprised me about this game, Sam, is the Cowboys getting shut out. You know, who would have thought the Dallas offense was rolled up 576 yards last week would get blanked this week? No surprise that the Colts dominated the game, but to win 23-0, you thought it was going to be a little bit more of a shootout, and the Cowboys obviously sleepwalking today offensively.
Last time they were shut out, 2003.
Wow.
Quincy Carter was the quarterback.
I remember that.
For the Cowboys.
Former Georgia star.
Good old number 17. November 16th, 2013, the Patriots shut out the Quincy Carter-led Dallas team, that courtesy of our Amal Shaw.
Amal Shaw, by the way, has someone who tweets for him. I know he wasn't sitting in his research department digging up that number today, so his PR guy tweeted that out.
Last game before we get to the guys at the Westgate, I needed Aaron Rodgers to be Aaron Rodgers. And again, he was more Matt Flynn than he was Aaron Rodgers.
I'm going to tell you this right now. For all the Mitchell Trubisky critics out there, he outplayed Aaron Rodgers today.
Big time.
No question about it. He made some phenomenal plays where he escaped the pressure in the pocket, rolled out, and threw the ball, Sam, through the proverbial keyhole today. He put some passes right on the money. And Trubisky, yeah, he's going to make some mistakes, and he's going to look bad at times. He didn't look very good last week against the Rams. I thought he looked great today. Aaron Rodgers missed a lot of wide-open receivers. He also had some drops that plagued the Packers as well. It's always a combination of things. But Trubisky looked like a young Aaron Rodgers today, and Rodgers looked old, and he looked like he didn't want to be out there. No enthusiasm once again today from Aaron Rodgers.
Trubisky, 20 of 28, 235, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Rodgers, 25 of 42. 274, no touchdowns and 1 pick. The quarterback rating, Trubisky 120, Rodgers under 70. So he was certainly outplayed.
He certainly was. And the Trubisky critics are going to be a little bit quiet tonight. They were chirping a lot last week, but you're going to hear nothing tonight.
And they're first place, and they won the division. So what more can you say? All right, let's go down. John Murray, Dave Tuley standing by at the Westgate. Gentlemen, Week 16 lines. Let's begin with the Redskins and the Titans. Johnny, the Titans are a favorite, but hey, my Redskins got win number 7 today.
Yeah, you at least get a push out of it, Sammy. Nice win. Great performance by the Redskins defense. They just had that one bonehead decision to punt it right into the middle of the field with 10 seconds left in the first half. Jacksonville returned that punt for a touchdown. Otherwise, Jacksonville didn't do anything in that game. Having said that, the Redskins are still a 10-point dog on Saturday on the road, Sam.
10 points. I don't know. I think Josh Johnson might be the quarterback of the future for the Redskins. Johnny, what do you think? Top pick.
Very possible, Matt. Certainly a real possibility to be the long-term guy there.
He's the top pick in the Alliance of American Football League draft. If maybe the Redskins can buy him out and he can be the future face of the Washington offense.
Matt, who else was available in that Alliance of American League draft?
I think Colin Kaepernick was available.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Maybe Quincy Carter.
Quincy Carter, yeah. Some very talented quarterbacks.
No doubt about it.
Dave, when you look at the Redskins here, they're still alive essentially, right? They're 7-7 in the NFC East, only a game back, and they're not quitting, as John pointed out. The defense is going to bring it. Would you approach the Redskins here as a bet on dog at +10?
Yeah, I was actually surprised looking at the standings today. I didn't realize that they were only half a game behind the Vikings for a wild card spot too. I mean, I've almost pretty much written them off. I mean, I think at 10, I don't think the Redskins are a bet on team, but I wouldn't trust the Titans laying double digits. So I'll probably be on the big dog.
Probably be a game I pass on there. I think I will pass on that set. Don't need any aggravation betting on a bad team on Saturday afternoon.
How about a second Saturday game? Ravens at the Chargers. Much better as far as the eye test goes. Johnny, the Bolts at home against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, though, 4-1 as a starter in the league.
Yeah, Chargers a 5-point favorite here, guys. This is exactly the kind of game the Chargers always lose under Phillip Rivers. When everybody expects them to win as a home favorite, it's usually where they drop games. I said last week that the Sharps love to bet on Rivers as a road dog, and they came through against Kansas City. But this is exactly the kind of time where I think we usually fade Rivers. We'll see what happens this week.
Couldn't have said any better. I love to bet Rivers as a road dog, and I hate to lay points with him at home. My question, Dave, would be Lamar Jackson. Do you have any faith in backing him if he's the quarterback and not Joe Flacco this week? Lamar Jackson has faced nothing. Here's the key. Nothing but bad defenses so far. Chargers do not have a bad defense.
Right. Yeah, the Chargers have a lot of good athletes on defense, and plus getting Joey Bosa back a couple weeks ago makes them tough. I would really like this a lot better at +6. So again, I'll take a closer look at this game during the week.
John, when you look at Lamar Jackson as an odds maker and somebody who moves these numbers every day, how do you guys view him at the Westgate? Because like Matt said, he's faced a couple really bad defenses. Atlanta 32nd, Oakland 31st, Tampa 30th, Cincinnati 28th. Yeah, he's 4-1, but he's done it against garbage.
Yeah, and Jackson's a guy that the coaching staff there, John Harbaugh on that staff, they try to protect him. They don't put him in too many bad situations. They do a good job of playing to his strengths, but he's certainly not an elite quarterback at this point in his career, Sammy. And I don't think the number would move too much if they went to Joe Flacco.
On to Sunday then. Let's go. Cowboys and Buccaneers. Dallas got goosed today on the road, lose 23-0 to the Colts, and now the Cowboys go back to Big D to host Tampa Bay.
Yeah, this is a really tough spot for the Cowboys today, guys. I know we talked about it all week, but they were in a tough spot on the road against the Colts. I think that their focus will be back this week. They're a touchdown favorite at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I saw Jameis Winston make some spectacularly bad throws today, by the way. See what happens.
Right.
Dallas is a very good defensive team. So I think the Cowboys, they'll get their focus back after what happened to them today.
Agree 100%. The Cowboys were in a bad spot today in Indianapolis. They were flat. That was predictable. That game today is going to get their attention. They're going to get an angry Cowboys team next week. This Dallas defense is still dominant. Jameis Winston's probably going to turn the ball over 2 or 3 times against the Cowboys. I would go Cowboys or pass here, believe it or not. I hate to play the Cowboys as home favorites, but I like to bet good teams off a bad loss, and that was an ugly, embarrassing loss today for the Cowboys.
Yeah, it was certainly something. Dave, anything on Tampa Bay here plus the 7? It's a good number.
Yeah, the advance line was 7.5, so hopefully the public bets it back to there. I was on the Buccaneers today. Luckily, I cashed them plus 8.5 in my pocket. Lost with them in the Super Contest plus 7.5. John, you guys shorted me on that one, but anyway, I thought even though Winston didn't play that well, I mean they were still in that game, and I think their offense, even though have to face the Dallas pass rush, I think the Bucs offense will do better next week.
Tuley said that, and he gave Murray the evil eye, and Murray showed no remorse whatsoever.
I was hoping for a fight.
To his head. Yeah, there's no gun to your head. You could pick one other game. You only have to choose 5. Right?
I actually
16 games to choose from, Sam.
I had middle December for our first Tuley and Murray brawl.
No, there won't be any brawl, but there's 16 games to choose from. We do try to make it as hard as possible, though.
All right, let's go to the Bills and the Patriots. This game is in Foxborough, and New England probably can't wait to get home here, John. Lost at Miami. They lose at Pittsburgh. They go back home to take on the Buffalo Bills.
New England, we opened them a 10.5-point favorite, guys. I think they need to bring the real Bill Belichick to that game, not this Hugh Jackson version of Bill Belichick that was calling the plays today. Yeah. I don't know what the Patriots were doing today. They kicked a field goal down by 7 inside the 10-yard line. That's not Bill Belichick football. I was shocked by some of the play calls from the Patriots today, and they need to get it correct in a hurry because it looks like they may not get a first-round bye, guys, and they're not going to get to the Super Bowl without a first-round bye.
Right. They've always had the kind of like Duke in the NCAA tournament. The Patriots have always had that easy path to the Super Bowl. They're not going to have that this year. I was watching that game and wondering, what's John Murray thinking right now about these Bill Belichick decisions, because very out of character, and I thought the Patriots game management, some of the key decisions on the play calling today, very strange.
I completely agree with you, Matt. I was thinking the same thing. I was saying the same thing to my colleague Ed Salmons. We were having a few laughs comparing Hugh Jackson to Bill Belichick. That's a comparison I've never made before.
I've never heard that comparison.
When is the last time, too, you guys have seen the Patriots commit 14 penalties in a football game?
No, it's just a very uncharacteristic performance from New England today, guys. And that team has a lot of warts. They don't have nearly the overall roster talent that you see in Kansas City or with the Chargers. And if they don't have a first-round bye, they've got to beat a team like, let's say, Baltimore or Indianapolis the first week and then go on the road twice. I don't think that they're capable of doing that. They're not going to get to the Super Bowl without a bye.
I agree. Speaking of Belichick decisions, John, I know you don't really advocate taking running backs with first-round picks. Why did Bill Belichick take Sony Michel as a first-round pick as a running back when the Patriots seem to be able to plug any running back in there and he's effective?
That's a great point. I mean, really, Belichick's whole career, they've plugged and played running backs from his first years in New England. I'm not sure why. I don't know what's going on with Belichick. I mean, you want to give deference to a guy like that, a 5-time Super Bowl champion, but I think a lot of his decision-making this season has been very questionable. Certainly the Miami game was very, very questionable, and I didn't like a lot of what he did today.
All that said, we throw a lot of shade at the Patriots for what they did today. Dave, you got to be pretty bold to go against the Pats in Foxborough. You feeling bold with the Bills here? You can get 10.5. You could probably wait it out and get a better number.
Actually, is it up to 12.5 here?
It's already gone up. We opened at 10.5. Wow. It's already gone up.
Yeah. So I'll definitely be waiting, just like the other games I mentioned. But I think if it gets to 13.5, I think of the Bills. Again, defenses have been playing well. We saw them before when they played the Patriots. Josh Allen's legs give him a chance to make plays against that defense as well.
The Bills are a very frisky team, Dave.
I think I've heard that all year.
Falcons at the Panthers. This game is in Charlotte. I know Cam Newton and company are favored. Of course, this line, John, it could move after Monday night when the Panthers play the Saints.
Yeah, we got open at Carolina -3.5, Sammy. The Falcons are off of a pretty impressive win today, but, you want to pump the brakes a little bit. It was against the Arizona Cardinals, but a win's a win, and the Falcons needed a win.
All right, we'll see the Panthers on Monday Night Football, and they have lost and failed to cover 5 in a row. I don't know. To me, we talked about that Bills-Pats game. If you push that number up to 13, I might get interested in the Bills. No matter what number you put on this Falcons-Panthers game, I'm not going to play it. I couldn't care less about this game. Dave?
I agree. The advance line in this was Falcons +6. Obviously, they adjusted that off of what the Falcons did today. But like John said, that was against the Cardinals, so not going to take the short number on the dog there.
I'll cross this one off. You cross that one off. I cross this one off. Jacksonville at Miami. Oh, God. Miami's been terrible this year on the road. At home, they've been beating some good teams, though. They've beaten the Bears. They've beaten the Patriots. What's Miami laying here to Jacksonville, John?
Opened up Miami as a 3.5-point favorite, Sammy. It's a tough game to pick. You don't know what you're going to get from Jacksonville at this point. And Miami actually has been relatively predictable, like you just mentioned, though. They're awful on the road. They were terrible today. But they've been pretty good at home, and they have beat some good teams. And I guess technically they're still in the AFC playoff race somehow.
Technically, that's true. And actually, if you look at the Dolphins, I think you can play them at home. You don't want to play them on the road, Sam. They're 2-10 against the spread. They're past 12 on the road.
And they get murdered. It's not like they're losing by a field goal or by a touchdown. They lose by multiple scores.
I don't know. The Jaguars are such an ugly dog. Even Dave Tuley might turn his nose up at the Jags. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll be passing on the Jags here. I'll probably just be using the Dolphins in my contests.
Before we step away and get to the second segment here with more games on Sunday, Week 16, John, I want to give you the dance floor here. Did you like Vance Joseph kicking a field goal down 4 on 4th and 1 at the 5 with minutes to go?
The truth of the matter, I was actually out at dinner. I wasn't watching the game, and I noticed that my Twitter notifications were blowing up. People that were correctly stating that kicking is, in fact, for losers. I don't know what the hell Vance Joseph was thinking there. Kicking a field goal down by 4 inside the it's just unbelievable.
It is. It's incredible. It's incredible how this guy has a job as a head coach in the NFL. That's such a bad, brain-dead decision. If Vance Joseph knew when to kick a field goal or when to go for it, the Broncos could easily be 8-6 instead of 6-8.
And you got over true. 7, right?
Yeah.
They've got a lot of talent on their defensive side of the ball, Matt. They actually had a really good draft,
right?
Especially if you include Phillip Lindsay in their draft class, which I would, because he was an undrafted free agent that they brought in. They've got a ton of good rookies this season. There's roster talent there.
Right.
Chubb is an absolute superstar. They have to fire Vance Joseph and move on and get somebody else in there. He kicked a field goal down by 4, Sammy.
On 4th and 1 at the 4.
It's comical. I don't know how anyone could justify that. I would have fired him right there.
Mind-boggling.
I would have named an interim coach on the sideline and been like, "You're the coach now."
So they've lost games by 2 to the Texans on a missed field goal. They've lost a game by 1 to the Broncos.
Yeah. Do we have to go over all
No,
this
we
again?
don't.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to rub it in. The guy's just
Sorry,
a dumbass.
Matt.
He's just a dumbass. There we go. We'll leave it at that. All right, we'll come back. Opening line show. We got more numbers for Week 16 in the NFL here on VSiN.
This is the Opening Lines Show, the first look at next week's pro football lines. You can listen to us on SiriusXM Channel 204, watch us online at VSiN.com, and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live. Welcome back. we give you the information to get the jump on next week's pro football games. Right now on the Opening Lines Show.
5:19 here in Las Vegas. Matt Youmans and Sam Panayotovich on a Sunday as we look ahead to Week 16 in the National Football League. Only 2 weeks left in the regular season. Crazy to think. And we welcome back Dave Tuley, John Murray live at the Westgate. Giants and the Colts, boys, and the Colts are hot. Matt said, top of the show, they've won 7 of 8. They've covered a good chunk of those games, and now they're laying a pretty decent number at home against the Giants.
Yeah, Sammy, we opened at Colts -9.5. Giants looked awful today offensively. Indianapolis looked very good, and they're right in the middle of that AFC playoff race. And just wanted to congratulate both of you on your picks on the Colts today. That was a very sharp pick. Nice job, fellas.
I thought that was a pretty obvious spot, and you were on it too, John, so congratulations to you. And
thank you, Matt.
You see Paulie Howard giving John a bunch of crap? He said, what do you want? What do you want, a cookie, John? You gave
Paul
one win
Howard,
out.
Very low self-esteem. I merely mentioned that I'd won a bet on the Colts today, and he just threw it in my face on Twitter. It's very sad to see that, Matt, and in Paul's old age, that he's becoming that weak of mind that he can't just say, hey, congratulations.
It is sad to see that. Well said,
Yes.
John. I couldn't agree with you more. I didn't really see Paul's malicious attack on Twitter.
It was bad. It was a double tap, too. It wasn't a drive-by. It was a double tap.
And then he started texting me, and it was just, the whole thing was embarrassing. But Mitch, Paul, and I will discuss it on Follow the Money Wednesday morning on VSiN. But, just simple, a nice pick. That's it. That's all you need to do.
It's a great spot for the Colts today, and not a good spot at all for the Cowboys. I thought that's handicapping 101. Pretty easy play to make, and it came through that way, 23-0. Now the Colts have gone from 1-5 to 8-6. Frank Reich, Coach of the Year candidate for that turnaround. He's probably not going to win it, but you have to put his name in the discussion. And John, last week on this show, it might have been the week before, you mentioned kind of sarcastically, as you usually do, that the Giants were winning so much they might consider bringing Eli Manning back in 2019. I read a story in the New York Post last week that speculated the Giants maybe should bring Eli back in 2019, and that is completely ridiculous. If you watch today's game, that guy is done as an NFL quarterback.
And, Matt, hold on.
I know
let me interrupt you. I was not being sarcastic when I said that. I really believe that if the Giants won out and finished with 6 or 7 wins, that they would very seriously consider bringing Eli Manning back. I was serious about that.
But you don't seriously think it's something they should do. You were joking.
Of course I know that they shouldn't do it.
Right.
All I said was if I was a Giants fan, I would be nervous about them winning too many games and talking themselves into another year of Eli Manning. I think the Giants have a lot of talent on offense when those guys are healthy.
Yeah.
Barkley's a stud. Beckham's a stud. I like some of their other pieces. They need a real quarterback in there because you just said it perfectly. Eli Manning is done as an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, I saw that story in the Post last week, and I was in disbelief. Like, do people really believe this? You cannot bring Eli back next year. I was mistaken in thinking that maybe he could be a serviceable quarterback in 2018. He's played well in stretches, but he's finished. He cannot play next year. If the Giants bring him back, it's one of those dunce cap decisions that they regret big time. The one thing about the Giants, Sam, when you look at them, and Dave Tuley probably will be interested in a dog in this game because if you look at them, they have covered and played well on the road, Dave. They played their best football on the road, and the Giants catching a lot of points here in Indianapolis.
And it almost for years, Eli Manning's played well, better on the road, and including on the road in playoff games on their Super Bowl runs. So, unfortunately, I probably will be biting my lip and plugging away on the Giants, hopefully getting double digits.
It looks like, by my count, the Giants have covered their last 6 games on the road. They beat the Redskins 40-16, lost to the Eagles by 3.
Every game since the season opener at Dallas, right? They've covered every game on the road since then, correct?
Yeah, that's what it looks like, because the only one that they didn't cover on the road was at Dallas. I think they were getting 3 or 3.5 in that game, lost by 7. But they've covered every game after that on the road. So there you go. How about the Texans, who have a bye? If the season were to end today, the Texans would have the 2 seed in the AFC. Johnny, Texans hit the road. They go to Philly to face the Eagles.
Yeah, the Texans kind of escaped yesterday, Sammy, but they did get the win. Got them laying 3.5 at Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia's season pretty much ended last Sunday when they lost to the Cowboys and basically gave the Cowboys the NFC East title.
Yeah, it's tough to lay points with the Texans, I think, in any scenario. That once again, they get a coin flip to go their way, and they cover against the Jets. But I would not lay the points with the Texans here, but it's also difficult to take the Eagles. This is one of those ugly games where it's kind of pick your poison, Dave. We don't know if the Eagles are going to have anything at all to play for, but the Texans have not proven to be a team that you can lay points with, and I think they were very lucky to cover yesterday.
Oh, absolutely. On last week's show, I said I wasn't going to be betting the Texans except in teasers against the Jets. So that worked out. Like you said, they did end up covering some people that laid 6.5, pushed on the closing number of 7. But on the road, I still wouldn't trust them here.
Vikings looked a lot better today. Granted, they beat a Dolphins team that can't do jack on the road. And I did think, John, their commitment to the run was pretty serious. You know, they hadn't ran the ball at all with John DeFilippo, but they started running it today. They ran it really well, and now they hit the road to face the Lions in Detroit.
Yeah, I think other than that Kirk Cousins pick 6, the Vikings did look impressive today. And if they beat Detroit on Sunday as a 4-point favorite, they will most likely be back in the playoffs. I think it's very likely that in Week 17, the Bears will have nothing to play for, and the Vikings will be a huge favorite in that game because the Bears will do nothing, show them nothing, because they could possibly play each other again the next week in a wild card game. So the Vikings are 4-point favorite here, and I think it's a win and get-in situation for Minnesota.
Yeah, and Matt, you've got Seattle right now. They're the 5. They're 8-6. Vikings have the 6. They're 7-6-1. They're a half game up on Washington.
Tough call here because I don't like laying points with Kirk Cousins, and I really feel like the Vikings looked better offensively today. They ran the ball more. I thought their game plan was a lot smarter without John DeFilippo. They did a lot of things right, but Kirk Cousins, again, throws a pick 6, and he lets the Dolphins knock that back door open. It looked like they might sneak through for a while. I'm not sure I want to lay the points here. You put this over a field goal, and I think you make it a tough decision for the better to make. Dave?
Yeah, I'm going to pass on the Lions as well. They burned me probably at least the last 3 times I bet them. so no thanks on the Lions as a home dog.
Yeah, rushing yards for the Vikings today, 220 yards on the ground. That's more like it when it comes to Minnesota. How about the Packers? Aaron Rodgers and company, they're dead. They're not making the playoffs. They go to New York, technically New Jersey, and face the New York Jets, John.
Yeah, you know, we opened at Packers -3. We're down to Packers -2.5. And let me ask you guys something. If you were the Green Bay Packers, why would you play Aaron Rodgers in Week 16 and Week 17 of the season?
No point, in my opinion.
Their season is over. He's a guy that was clearly banged up earlier in the year. What is the point of trotting him out there for these last 2 games?
There is no point. Rodgers did say today that his quote was, "I'd like to be out there and lead us the last 2 weeks." He says, "I'd like to be out there." He said he wasn't demanding to be out there, Sam. I think basically he's giving Joe Philbin an opening to set him down the next 2 weeks because that's a smart decision. If you can take 3 with the Jets, I don't think that's a bad bet because if you're going to put DeShone Kizer at quarterback for the Packers, that guy's a disaster waiting to happen. We've seen it, and he would be a great bet against.
Dave, you can't get 3 at the Westgate. Johnny shorted you again, but you can get 3 at a couple other places. Will you be looking to – I mean, you have to pounce right now if you don't think Rodgers is going to go.
Right, because obviously if Rodgers doesn't go, this line's going to move.
It will move.
It'd be DeShone Kizer, Dave. DeShone Kizer would be your starter.
I can't even do that kind of math, Dave. It'll move.
Yeah, so I'm not going to jump on it and then have Rodgers end up going and playing out there. No thanks.
Last one.
You know what? That's a fascinating game, though. Right now, I put a number up on that. I'm reading the story as we do this show about Rodgers' quotes and how he says he wants to play, and he might have a problem if Joe Philbin wants to sit him. But as an organization, if you're the GM, don't you have to step in here and say, hey, we're not going to play you the next 2. Get healthy. And it's not a matter of taking a look, really, at DeShone Kizer.
No.
Because we know he's got no future. The guy can't play. We know
he can hold the clipboard.
Yeah. He probably dropped that a few times, too. I think what you just have to do is preserve Aaron Rodgers' health. And you got to sit him out the next 2 games. You have nothing to play for. You don't put him in danger. What if he goes out there and breaks his collarbone again or blows out his knee? It's just dumb to play him.
Yeah, you've already been lucky enough to get him through this season up to this point. Right. He's been banged up. The knee's been buckled. It's time. It's time to shut it down. Last game on this segment here, boys. We got the Browns at home against the Bengals. Johnny, is this number right on Cleveland?
Browns -7. You don't like that one, Sammy?
I love it. No, I mean, it's crazy. We live in a world where the Browns are 7-point favorites.
You think it should be higher, don't you?
You think it should be higher, clearly.
You know I do. I made it 8. But, the Browns are a team that they're really playing good football right now. They won again on Saturday against Denver. Now, partially that was due to Vance Joseph being the coach of the Denver Broncos. But you've got to give Cleveland credit. And I think it's possible that Cleveland will retain this coaching staff, especially if they win these last 2 games. Browns have a very bright future. I could argue that the Browns have had one of the 5 most successful seasons of any team in the NFL. They got rid of Hugh Jackson. They found out that they do have a stud franchise quarterback in Baker Mayfield, and they developed several other young players. I mean, the Browns have a very high ceiling, guys.
Yeah. I agree with what he said, and he's been promoting the Browns for months.
Years, actually, Matt.
Years, huh?
We skip over that 0-16 season. We just pretend that never happened. But for several years, I've been on the Browns.
That was not a good bet for a few years there.
No, I didn't do well on my Browns over win total bet last year, Matt, but this year was a little bit better.
Browns are the 4th best cover team in the league this year, 9-5 now against the number, behind only the Saints, Bears, and Seahawks. Dave, any chance you take Jeff Driscoll and company?
I might have to because, I don't think this line should be as high as 7. Driscoll won today. Of course, it was against the Raiders. But I don't think – I think this is where the market catches up with the Browns.
In general, when you see a team that's not used to being a favorite, and all of a sudden that team's laying a pretty big number, you don't want to lay that number. I think it's kind of a situation where you want to take the points with the dog here or pass. I cannot trust the Browns in the big favorite role. That's something we haven't seen in quite a while.
There's no way. There's no way I'm laying 7 here. And the Browns this year, I think they've only been favored. I'm looking at the numbers here. This will be the 4th time they were favored. They're 2-1. ATS is a favorite, but they've been favored by 1 or 3, not 7. So I'll pass and I'll stay away for sure. We'll come back. More games on the late Sunday slate, Sunday nighter, Monday nighter on the opening line show here on VSiN.
This is the Opening Lines Show, the first look at next week's pro football lines. You can listen to us on Sirius XM Channel 204, watch us online at VSiN.com, and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live. Welcome back. We give you the information to get the jump on next week's pro football games. Right now on the Opening Lines Show.
Second half here on VSiN, Opening Line Show. We look ahead to Week 16 in the National Football League. John Murray, Westgate Superbook Director, and Dave Tuley, VSiN.com senior reporter, live at the Westgate. He's Matt Youmans. I'm Sam Panayotovich. Guys, let's pick it back up with the late slate on Sunday. Rams at the Cardinals here. I know it's a big number, John. How big, though? Rams on the road at Arizona.
Rams 13.5-point road favorites. Game's off the board right now, but that's what we opened it, Sam. It's hard to make a number on the Cardinals after what we saw today. That was just sad.
They got pounded by a god-awful Falcons team.
They need to move on from the coach. I know it's one season, but they need to do it. They need to move on at the end of this year.
I mean, what's the saying? What should be done eventually, what needs to be done eventually should be done immediately. And that's Steve Wilks, right? He's eventually going to be fired, so why not do it immediately? And I agree with him. Broncos would have been better off cutting the cord on Vance Joseph after last season. The Cardinals can't make the same mistake here and drive Steve Wilks into year number 2. We today on the Green Zone talked about coaches on the hot seat. We came up with about 10 names of guys who could be let go after this season. We've already seen one, Mike McCarthy, out the door. I really think this could be a slaughter on the following Monday after the season ends. You could see 7 or 8 coaches fired, and Arizona has won. Today, the Cardinals scored the first 7 points of the game and got blitzed after that. Josh Rosen continues to be a turnover machine.
I found a list here, global odds on the next coach to be fired. Steve Wilks, Johnny, he's the favorite, 2-1. Marvin Lewis, 3-1. Todd Bowles, 3-1. Dirk Cutter, 4-1. Ron Rivera, 5-1. Vance Joseph, 10-1.
I would personally make Bowles the favorite because I think it's just a guarantee that he'll be fired at the end of the season. I would have made Bowles favorite there. But those other guys, I mean, Ron Rivera is going to get fired unless Carolina somehow makes the playoff. Carolina's got a new owner, and that guy's going to want to bring in his own people. So I think Ron Rivera certainly will be fired unless the Panthers somehow rally into the postseason.
Yeah, go down the list. I mean, Jay Gruden in Washington, how does he not get fired?
I don't know that Gruden should get fired, actually, Matt. I mean, I actually think the Redskins to finish at 8-8, if they do, or 7-9, with all the injuries they've had this season, isn't that bad.
I mean, injuries can be an excuse. I was talking with Michael Lombardi about this last week, and Lombardi thinks Gruden's a horrible coach. So you can tell when you watch the Redskins that they're not very disciplined. They make all sorts of mistakes, and I agreed with him on that. I don't think Jay Gruden's teams are really disciplined or really well coached. Injuries can be an excuse, but I think it's time to part ways with Jay Gruden in Washington. He will be one of those guys, I think, on thin ice on that following Monday. How about Doug Marrone in Jacksonville?
He's not on the list. Adam Gase is the last one on the list, 20-1 in Miami.
Dirk Ketter in Tampa?
4-1.
I liked what you said about Wilks, Matt. I mean, they're going to fire him eventually. It's kind of like the Rams when they had Jeff Fisher there and they just would not pull the trigger, even though everyone knew that they should have fired him. The same thing with the Colts and Chuck Pagano. And as soon as those teams finally, tore off that Band-Aid and fired the coaches that needed to be fired, they immediately got much better. I don't think the Cardinals will be that good right away, but I know they need to move on from Wilks.
So, Dave, how many points do you need then to take the Cardinals here? I know 13.5, probably not good enough.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, I watched very little of the Cardinals-Falcons game today, but every time it was just ugly. And yeah, I mean, the Rams, a lot of teams stick around, but I mean, I don't even think the Cardinals can stay within 2 touchdowns here.
Yeah, I don't have any interest in the Cardinals. Josh Rosen is, like I said, a turnover machine, and Steve Wilks is not a well-coached team. Really, the Rams have not been covering numbers, and you got to be a little bit concerned at the way the Rams have played here in the second half of the season. It's almost like they peaked too soon, and they've really lost their rhythm, Sam. Going into the Sunday night game, there were a lot of concerns with the Rams and the way they played the previous week in Chicago, and you thought they were going to hang a big number on the Eagles. And Sean McVay, I think, is a little bit perplexed at trying to get this offense back on track.
And it's not just one player, right? It's not just Cooper Kupp being hurt. No. It's more than that. It's the play calling. I think people have caught up to him. Yep. But you're right. Last 10 games, they've only covered twice.
Jared Goff looks like he's lost a little bit of confidence, right? So there are some issues with the Rams, but still, you're not going to get me on the Cardinals side here.
Johnny, you've got the Bears going into San Francisco, and it's always interesting how line makers come up with these numbers with teams that have clinched divisions, right? The Bears, they win the North. They're ideally going to have the 3 seed in the NFC. How do you guys gauge their motivation here when you make this line, Bears at the Niners?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the nail on the head there, Sammy. The Bears are kind of in a situation similar to what Dallas was in today, where they've won their division. They really don't have anything to play for the last 2 weeks. We made them a 4.5-point favorite on the road against the 49ers. I could see money coming in on the 49ers. The Niners have won 2 consecutive games as home underdogs, and now they're playing a Chicago team that really has nothing on the line. The Bears will likely sit out everybody in Week 17, so maybe they'll want to get a look at some guys in Week 16 to keep them somewhat, ready for the playoffs. But the motivation will not be there. You're right.
I'll tell you what, I think the home dog might be attractive here, Dave, because the Bears are coming off 2 big wins at home over the Rams, and the rival Packers are going to be celebrating a little bit this week. And you go to the West Coast where the Bears have never really played exceptionally well, and you're going to lay a number against the 49ers who've shown a lot of life as ugly home dogs here the past couple weeks. I might take a look at the Niners here, Dave. You think the Bears potentially could be a little flat?
Yeah, I think the flatness angle even adds to it, but I think I'd have been looking at the Niners as a home dog anyway. I had them today against the Seahawks. So when we talked about this game last Sunday, I pointed out how Nick Mullins, he's played so much better at home. I mean, it's amazing if you look at his road stats. He really came down to earth, but when he's come back home, he plays much better there.
Well, there are some people somewhere agreeing with us, guys. I look at the board right here. Westgate John has 3.5 right now in the game.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Obviously, I haven't been back in the room for about 40 minutes now, but it doesn't surprise me that the bettors are taking the 49ers because of all the reasons that we all just said.
Yeah, it's a 4 William Hill, but 3.5 at the Westgate. On to the last game in the late slate afternoon-wise. Steelers at the Saints. Johnny, New Orleans in the Dome at home, laying how much?
6.5 points. And, the Steelers really needed to win today, Sammy, because they had those 2 losses in a row, and they've got this trip to New Orleans looming. They had to win this game, or they probably wouldn't have won the AFC North. They're still in a battle with the Ravens, but they got the must-win game today. Meanwhile, the Saints really haven't been playing well the last few weeks. They really had no business covering that Tampa Bay game last Sunday, and they've got a Monday night game tomorrow. So both teams haven't been playing great lately.
That's a good point. The Rams and Saints are kind of seeing the same pattern here where their offenses are slowing down a little bit. Late in the season, these teams might have peaked a little bit soon. The Saints scored 38 points total in their past 2 games, and Sam, they were lucky to get to 28 in the last game against Tampa Bay. We'll see how they look on Monday night, but that win today for the Steelers was huge, I think, for that team's confidence and momentum. Like John said, if they had lost to the Patriots today, I think that season was going to slip away. They were going to miss the playoffs and blow the AFC North. But now that win today gives them a little bit of life. Let's see how the Saints look on Monday night if they're a little bit sharper offensively. I have my doubts. But I'll withhold judgment on this game for right now. Dave, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers obviously stepped up when they needed to today. If they had lost, the Browns would still be alive for a potential division title, but they knocked them out of that. But I think the Steelers, again, we'll see what happens Monday night, but Steelers are very likely to be on my ticket.
Yeah, and you look at the 7, it looks like a big number, right? But then you look at the last 4 games Saints have played at home. 31-17 against the Falcons, 48-7 against the Eagles, 45-35 against the Rams, 43-19 against the Redskins. So they crush you at home. That's what they do. Last game here on Sunday. This is the Sunday nighter, Johnny. Chiefs hit the road. They will face the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, we opened at Kansas City -2.5. Guys, one thing to really consider in this game, if the Chargers do beat the Ravens on Saturday night, they're going to put a lot of pressure on Kansas City to hold serve in this game. Or it could be the Chargers with the #1 seed in the AFC playoffs and Kansas City starting their playoff road on the road.
This becomes a really intriguing game at this point after the Seahawks did lose today, like John said. I think the public bettor is going to look at this and say, I can lay less than a field goal with the Chiefs. It looks like a good deal to me. Dave?
Yeah, for a long time, I loved Seattle as a home dog. I just, as much as they've been overachieving this year and playing so well and running the ball and defense, I'm not sure they have enough to keep up with the Chiefs here.
You look at what Seattle's done at home, Youmans, this year. On the season at home, they're 4-2. They're 4-4 away from home. But you're right, though. I mean, the fact that that's 2.5 and not 3, it feels weird, doesn't it, to see 2.5 instead of 3?
I think it's going to close 3. John, what are the possibilities it closes 3? Because at 3, you're going to obviously get some sharps who say there's value and they'll take the +3 and lay the 2.5. How do you work that as a bookmaker when you're not sure if this line should be 2.5 or 3? You really don't want to go to 3, but you know the public's going to lay the 2.5.
I think it's gonna close higher, Matt. I completely agree with everything you said, especially if the Chargers do win on Saturday night. That would put a lot of pressure on the Chiefs in this game. And, Seattle is pretty safely going to win one of those NFC wildcard spots. And they're going to be one of the 5th or the 6th seed is what I'm trying to say. So they don't have a whole lot of pressure on them. They can't win the division. They're going to be on the road the first round. It's really Kansas City that will have all the pressure on them in that game.
Last game, Week 16, and somebody, guys, at ESPN deserves a raise for this one. Broncos at the Raiders, and I'm guessing Vance Joseph will be a road favorite here, Murray.
Sammy, it's a Christmas Eve present from the National Football League.
What is this crap?
Aren't you excited to watch this game on Christmas Eve, buddy?
No.
I don't believe you, but we opened Denver as a 2.5-point favorite. I think the Sharps are actually going to take the dog here, guys. I think the money will come in on the Raiders. People are not going to be lining up to lay points with Vance Joseph after he kicked a field goal down by 4 on 4th and 1. I can't get over it, Matt. I can't wrap my mind around it.
You got to cut it in some circles. You have to cut it from 4 down to 1.
Huh? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got to make sure you do that.
Got to cut it from 17-13 to 17-16.
Look, Sammy, if it had been 4th and 25 after maybe a big holding penalty, I would have been okay with that call. But on 4th and 1, you go for it.
Inside the 10.
Come on, Vance.
Inside the 5.
You have to go for it.
It's ridiculous.
You have to go for it. So I cannot lay points with Vance Joseph. One thing I've learned this year, I thought the Broncos' talent was a lot better than people suspected this year, which is why I played them over their win total of 7. One thing I underestimated is when you bet on a bad coach, a really bad coach, and you're playing over a team's win total, that's dangerous. Because he single-handedly has blown at least 2 wins with his dumbass decisions.
At least 2.
On field goals, whether or not to go for it. Yeah, the Broncos could easily be an 8-6 team.
I agree with Matt. And just think about this, guys. What would the Browns' record be right now if they'd started off the season with Greg Williams and Kitchens as the offensive coordinator instead of the duo of Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley? They'd be a playoff team. They really would be. Matt's absolutely right. A bad coach can bring the whole thing down.
Yeah.
Dave, any thoughts on the Raiders here? +2.5. If you wait, maybe you get 3. I don't even know where this line's moving, but would you take a position on the Raiders here?
Not a big position. It might be a case where I might tie in with some teasers from Sunday, and then take the Raiders +8.5 at home. But not going to be involved that much. I think it's a really good night to spend it with your family.
Yeah, very true. Christmas Eve, Broncos at the Raiders. And you can hear it on Sirius XM 204. All right, we'll come back. We've got some bowl games coming up. 1 Tuesday, 1 Wednesday, 1 Thursday, 2 on Friday. It's the opening line show here on VSiN.
This is the Opening Lines Show, the first look at next week's pro football lines. You can listen to us on Sirius XM Channel 204, watch us online at VSiN.com, and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live. Welcome back. We give you the information to get the jump on next week's pro football games. Right now on the Opening Lines Show.
Bowl season underway. A lot more action to get down on here. Second annual VEASAN Bowl Guide available right now. VEASAN.com/Bowl Guide. Stats, trends, analysis for every single game, including best bets and power ratings. I know the power ratings this year had a really strong run in Point Spread Weekly. So you can order now $19.99, VEASAN.com/Bowl Guide for all your information for every single bowl guide. What? Something I said?
That was a good one.
Clemson and Notre Dame, Johnny, as we welcome in John Murray, Dave Tuley, live at the Westgate. Johnny, you said it could get to 14. Your shop has 13.5 on Clemson right here.
Clemson's seen more money than any other team this bowl season, at least at the Superbook, Sammy. Clemson's been a very popular pick. Notre Dame's going to have their hands full with those Clemson defensive linemen, fellas. It's a tough matchup for them.
You know, this number got up to 13.5 quicker than I expected, John. Do you think we go to 14 by kickoff?
You know, I still think we're going to see some Notre Dame support. I do think people will come in, especially Notre Dame money line. Both of the dogs are going to get a lot of money line action. I do expect there to be support for the Irish as we get closer to kickoff from more public bettors. You guys know the public bettors are not weighing in on a game that's 2 weeks away,
Sure.
not too much at least. The only public bets you really see on a game like that are guys that are betting now because they're getting out of town. For the most part, the public money doesn't come in until the week of the game.
Well, it's interesting. If this number actually goes to 14 at any point on the screen, I will take Notre Dame plus 14. And, Dave, it looks like we're awfully close. As I look at the screen right now, the Westgate at 13.5 and a couple other spots as well. Do you think we'll get to 14? Would that be your buy sign with the Irish or no?
Yeah, I've been waiting on the Irish. For the two playoff games, the dog I like much better. You know, Oklahoma doesn't play defense, so I'm staying away from them there. But no, I'm waiting for the best number I can get on the Irish.
Yeah, I'd love to get 14, that's for sure. I wonder if it does get there. We've got a couple weeks to go.
You know, if we knew somebody at the Westgate book who could go back and maybe move that line from 13.5 to 14, then we could bet it.
Ask around, Dave. See if you find somebody.
Let me talk to the guys in the back, Matt. I'll say it's a personal request from you, and I'll relay their response to you.
John, you might get in trouble if you said that. So.
Yeah, I don't think we can't do that, but I think that you probably will see a 14 somewhere in this city in the next 2 weeks. Keep those eyes peeled.
Okay.
I will have my runner standing by. All right, Dave, I know you wrote this one up in the bowl guide. The Boca Raton Bowl, NIU, UAB, and this one is nearing a field goal. The Blazers laying 2.5, total 43.5. What do you know about this one, the Boca Raton Bowl?
Yeah, NIU is my alma mater, as a lot of people know, but I'm not going to be on them. They don't have much offense this year. The defense is outstanding. Sutton Smith is a stud. But if you see this over-under is like an NFL total. It's not much scoring expected in this one, but I think UAB is the right side.
Johnny, you've got the Frisco Bowl, San Diego State at Ohio. Thursday, it's the Gasparilla Bowl, Marshall at USF. Friday, the Bahamas Bowl, FIU at Toledo. And then the Potato Bowl also on Friday, Western Michigan at BYU. Any thoughts on these games or any big bets at the Westgate so far?
Out of those games, the only one I've really seen some sharp action I can tell you about, guys, is Western Michigan. Hit a sharp group that took the points in that game. Nothing else really on the other games, but since they're all, island games, not competing against the NFL this week, I'm sure we'll see a lot of handle on them. Whereas if they were buried in the deck on a Saturday morning, they would get virtually no money. But because they're on their own in primetime, boys, there'll be a lot of money on those games.
I love the bowl season. You have a football game basically every day. Nobody's forcing you to watch it, so don't complain about too many meaningless games. It's just more potential action for bettors and bookmakers. And I've got plays on a lot of these bowl games. And, if you go through our bowl guide, we had 10 handicappers with their best bets, and the best bets are kind of spread out. Pretty much every game's got some sort of best bet on it from somebody. How about that Fresno-Arizona State result yesterday in the Las Vegas Bowl? John, wrap it up with this. Fresno covers. It seemed like there was a lot of money on Fresno, at least until about 6 hours before kickoff, and that game was fortunate to stay under the total of 54.
Yeah, for me, the game was really summed up by Herman Edwards' decision to punt on 4th and 1. He actually took a delay of game penalty and then punted. So if you look at the box score, he punted on 4th and 6. The reality is he made his decision to punt on 4th and 1. And for me, that was the end of the game there. The book needed the dog there, Arizona State. Although I actually gave out Fresno on Between the Sidelines with Sammy Panayotovich and Jonathan Von Tobel. And as Paul Howard will tell you, I only mention my winners. So let me mention that winner, Fresno State.
That's 2 winners that John had. And, you know, he is exactly right about that. When Herman Edwards made that decision to punt, and I thought that I had Fresno, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad he's going to punt. I wanted him to punt. That was a turning point in the game, and that's when the Sun Devils fell apart.
That does it for us. For Dave Tuley, John Murray, Johnny, we'll see you Tuesday. We'll have cookies waiting for you.
Thanks. I deserve him after that Colts pick, man. Tell Paul.
Mitch and Paul back tomorrow, bright and early here on VSiN.
This is the Opening Lines Show, the first look at next week's pro football lines. You can listen to us on SiriusXM Channel 204, watch us online at VSiN.com, and follow us on Twitter at VSiN Live.
You Gotta Know is the addictive sports trivia game made just for fans of your hometown teams. And it's the perfect $20 gift this holiday season. 500 questions and answers unique to your hometown. Players, coaches, trades, draft picks, ballparks, and arenas, all wrapped up in an attractive tin decked out in your hometown colors. 22 different editions. 22 You Gotta Know has you covered in cities from Boston to Seattle and everywhere in between. Plus college towns like Ann Arbor, Columbus, and South Bend. 22 versions of You Gotta Know, each for a different sports town and each with 500 questions unique to the teams that you love. Something here for everyone, from the casual fan to the obsessed sports geek. Easy gameplay lets you choose the point values on each card to race to 21 or sit around, drink some beer, and ask the questions to your buddies. Check out the best gift for sports fans this holiday season at YouGottaKnowGames.com and be sure to enter the promo code VSiN20 at checkout. VSiN20, that'll knock 20% off your order. If you've got a sports fan on your list this holiday season, the perfect gift is waiting for you right now at YouGottaKnowGames.com.